Formula One champions Red Bull have made some changes to their car at testing in Barcelona. Our reporter Rachel Brooks and Ted Kravitz got a pretty close look in the pit lane a short time ago.
Well, Ted and I have come to the Red Bull garage this morning. It's the only place to be. A lot of media and press around as they bring these new parts in. It's just gone out for the installation lap and we're waiting for it to return. Mark Webber driving. Ted, what did you see?
Well, it's a brand new exhaust system, so now we understand why they had to fly a new car out overnight, because they couldn't fit this new exhaust system to chassis number one. So chassis number two has come out, and indeed, as we said yesterday, this looks like Adrian Newey has reacted to what other teams have done with their exhaust systems that they saw from the first test. This one is much more aggressive, much more towards the edge of what the rules allow. Of course, the rules do allow it. It is legal. But if we see what they've done at the rear of the car, and look how quickly all the mechanics come to cover everything up. I can see a small change on the front wing. The rear wing appears to be pretty much the same. But as Paul di Resta just passes us in the Force India, you can see how keen the mechanics are to just shoo all the reporters away there. But yeah, I had a look at it, and it's a exhaust system halfway, I'd say, between the McLaren system and the Sauber system, whereas Red Bull started this testing season with exhaust just came out and flowed fairly standardly towards the rear wing. This one, they're much further towards the front of the car, and they appear to sort of downflow. And you can see what Adrian Newey is trying to do with the airflow. It's similar to what the Sauber system has, more like a Sauber system than the McLaren system, I'd say. McLaren uses small channels to funnel their exhaust through the back of the car. Red Bull, you can say it's much more of a sort of a downwash concept.
But also we heard from Pat Fry last night, Ferrari talking about their exhaust system. They tried one out for the first two tests. They realised it was too aggressive, too radical, and they've now come with a different exhaust for this test here. And how have they been getting on with it?
Well, indeed, but that shows how confident Red Bull must be in this new exhaust to bring that there. Ferrari have been trying what they admitted was an aggressive exhaust solution, and they couldn't get it to work. And so they've had to go back, and they've only had 3 days testing with this new exhaust to get it right for Melbourne. So Adrian Newey and Red Bull must be absolutely certain that this new exhaust system, which, let's not forget, they've now only got 2 days to perfect, is absolutely right for them. We'll see what Ferrari do later on in the day.
What will Red Bull be doing today now? We've seen that installation lap. Are they going to try and do long runs, or is it too early with this new system?
No, they won't try and do long runs, because the problem with a new exhaust system is that you don't know really where the hot exhaust air is going to blow. There's a big problem with overheating. So what Red Bull need to understand for the rest of today and tomorrow with Sebastian Vettel is whether this exhaust system is giving them the downforce that they want, and whether it's burning the back of the car, because they don't know that yet, and they need to find out.
All right, thanks very much, Ted. We'll be keeping a close eye on what does happen with that Red Bull today and the rest of the teams here at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona.
Now, it's the penultimate day of the final pre-season test ahead of the new Formula One season. For some of the drivers, it's the last chance they get in the car before they go to Australia for that first Grand Prix. We can head back to Rachel Brooks now at the Circuit de Catalunya.
Yes, we're into the last 2 days of testing here in Barcelona, and this is where it gets really interesting. Last night, Red Bull flew in that new chassis. They've got a new front and rear wing, and they're trying out a new exhaust design. Now, we saw Mark Webber come in from his installation lap earlier, and they're doing lots and lots of short runs this morning as they try and see how this exhaust is working on this track here in Barcelona. Ferrari also have got a new exhaust here, but they've had it for the first 2 days as well. Pat Fry said that they'd gone for an aggressive, radical design initially, and it obviously hadn't worked on the car, so they've had to go back to the drawing board almost with the exhaust, and they've had to put a new one on for here in Barcelona. The news we brought you on Thursday morning that they'd gone for a new design on their car. They're still working things through. Pat Fry said they're in reasonable shape right now, but with just over 2 weeks to go until that first race, reasonable is not really good enough for a Formula One team. Lotus look like being really quick on the grid when they get out to Australia and maybe pip the Ferrari to that third position, but at the moment it is the McLarens and the Red Bull that are looking good on the track. If the teams chasing, Force India look pretty good. Williams are having a tough time. They proved they've got a car that can be reliable, but unfortunately they're yet to pick up the pace here, and we're hoping to speak to them later on. But we will keep you updated throughout the day.
It's the penultimate day of the final pre-season test ahead of the new Formula One season, and we can head back to Rachel Brooks now in Barcelona.
Yes, well, we've come out onto the track here at the Circuit de Catalunya. We're at turn 10, and of course this track will be hosting the Grand Prix in May. But right now it's the third day of the winter pre-season testing, the final winter testing session these teams have before we go to Australia for the first race in Melbourne in just over 2 weeks' time. They're expecting about 6,000 fans to turn up today to watch this, and I'm joined now by Ted Kravitz from Sky Sports F1 HD. And Ted, what will the fans see today?
Well, they're going to see a brand new Red Bull. They've flown chassis number 2 out here overnight from the factory in Milton Keynes, and it's arrived. We've had a look at it this morning. It's a brand new exhaust system, a new downwash exhaust. We haven't seen a new rear wing or a new front wing on the car yet. I think that will come later on in the test, perhaps tomorrow when Sebastian Vettel drives the car. But it's quite an exciting development from Red Bull. They've already looked like they're the fastest car in pre-season testing, and now they've brought this significant upgrade to the rear of the car, and I think it's going to have a lot of the other teams quite worried.
One of those teams being McLaren. What are we going to see from them today, do you think?
Well, we've seen a drip of improvements from McLaren. They've been bringing piece by piece and fitting them to the car bit by bit and making sure one works, and then they put another one on. But Red Bull have come, and now with a big splash of a new rear end on their car, and they've surprised everybody, and this is the car that they're going to race in Australia. So McLaren really have to bring something out of the bag that's significant in the next 2 days for us to have a real competition of it in Melbourne. Otherwise, I fear that we might have certainly Red Bull winning the race and possibly a 1-2 in Melbourne.
And what about the other teams? Let's talk about Ferrari, because there's still a lot of talk about Ferrari. And can they have anything dramatic up their sleeve, or do we really think they're struggling?
Well, by Ferrari's own admission, they are still with some work to do. They've changed exhausts themselves, not because they felt it was beneficial for performance like Red Bull, but because they felt they had to, because they didn't really understand their new exhausts. And they're working through a program very steadily. I think there's a slight agreement with everybody, and the team are admitting it tacitly, if you like, that they're going to be not quite as prepared as they'd like going to Melbourne, but we should see that car come good later on in the first few flyaway races.
We've got the Force India going round at the moment behind us, and they have been performing fairly well here. They will be one of that midfield chasing pack, won't they?
Yeah, that's Paul de Resta, Scottish driver, out in the Force India, and he's on the medium tyres, so he'll be doing some more race preparation. And Force India really looking like they might be heading the front of the midfield pack, along with Sauber, who've been quite impressive, and Williams and Toro Rosso as well. They seem to be some good cars in that midfield pack. It's going to be quite hotly contested.
One team that have been performing well, but this morning are having problems, is Lotus. They've got a steering issue, but it's kept them in the garage for quite a long time.
Yeah, this is a shame, because Lotus Renault are really waiting to see what Kimi Raikkonen made of the new car. Let's not forget they missed the second test, which was the first test held in Barcelona here. They've only competed in Jerez before, so this is Kimi Raikkonen's first run in a car since February the 8th, if you can believe that. And it's a shame, because he came back and reported that he didn't like the way the car was steering. They wanted to change it, they want Kimi to be happy, but they've already lost the first morning. So what looked very promising for them, they've been quickest with Kimi's teammate Romain Grosjean for the first 2 days, has turned into slightly not such a good situation for Lotus Renault, but the car is still quick.
All right, well, thanks very much, Ted, for the moment. We're expecting the teams to be doing, most of the teams anyway, to be doing some race simulations this afternoon, not longer runs, and we will keep you updated with the progress.
Now, they're not topping the time charts yet, but the whole Formula One pit lane was watching what changes Red Bull had made to their 2012 car at the penultimate day of Formula One testing in Barcelona.
It was all eyes on Red Bull on day 3. Word was out that their new chassis had arrived overnight, complete with a new exhaust layout.
Inevitably, there's a few changes, but sometimes it's the changes that you don't see that make some of the bigger differences. So. But Formula One, that's part of the excitement of it. Is it's constantly evolving. The car's constantly a prototype.
Mark Webber was the first to experience the upgrades, but found one problem hadn't been solved. Mark, you said in Jerez and also after the first week in Barcelona, you're still having a bit of problems with loss of grip at the rear. Have these upgrades that came today solved that?
No, we have work to do still. So I think coming from last year's regulations, it's normal that the cars are very, very different. So there's always areas to improve.
The Sauber topped the timesheets again, with Sergio Perez completing 114 laps. Second fastest was the McLaren, who'd been adding their own upgrades all week. But with a new front wing and nose, it meant much less track time for Jenson Button.
So it's very tricky when you put a new package on the car because
you obviously know what it does, but you're never quite sure if you've got the right setup for it. So it takes a little bit of time to get the mechanical setup right and the aero setup right, and we didn't really have the time to do that.
The new Red Bull upgrades on a car already seen as the one to beat has given all the teams something to think about. For the final day of testing before the first race in 2 weeks' time, the reigning world champion will have his chance to see what the RB8 can do now. Rachel Brooks, Sky Sports, Barcelona.